standard map. It's a 4-player map, 4 starting positions, and overall a relatively standard map.
Yeah, Python, I mean, that's just... I remember when I first started playing Brood War, right before StarCraft 2 came out, and I started playing it, or I should say, started playing it in like the more 1v1 competitive sense and not just playing UMS maps every game. Python was the map that we all practice on day in and day out. I used to know all of those weird little wall-ins that Terran had to do back then, but now Terran's kind of figured out a couple better ways to play. But Python's just an amazing map.
Indeed it is. All right, let's go ahead and introduce these players. Spawning in the top right-hand corner as your TAM Protoss player, it is Roots TT1, currently up 3-1 over his opponent.
And spawning down here in the bottom left-hand corner in the teal, it is going to be our Terran player, Nyoken.
Bit on the back foot. I feel like Nyoken's really close to TT1 in skill level, but TT1 has just been getting just a little bit more of an edge in some of these engagements, some of the strategy decision making, and those little slight decisions are making enough of a difference for him to propel him towards victory. I want to see Nyoken maybe try to shake things up a little bit more. He did try to go for the double factory early on last game, but TT1's control was just way too good for that to really work out well. What else could Nyoken really kind of do to try to catch TT1 like offhand or unaware of something?
There's a couple of different builds that really Terran can use, but we're not really going to be seeing Nyoken go for either of them. One of them is kind of like a really cheesy beginning. It's called the BBS. It's also the Barracks Supply, which is the build order that you go for. And you do that at 10 SCVs, and you pop down 2 barracks, and you just pump out a whole bunch of Marines, and you catch the Protoss before they even get their first Dragoons out. And if you can control it really well, it works to be very aggressive. Just takes out so many probes, and puts the Protoss on a really good back foot. The 10-10, which is barracks and refinery build, is another really good one that just kind of catches the Protoss just a little bit earlier than they expect it to be hit. But TT1, really lucky here, did get that first initial scout off. Does see that this is going to be pretty much a barracks into expansion with the bunker behind this for the first couple minutes.
Now, I've noticed that Nyoken's not really doing a wall off at his ramp, the natural ramp, that often against Protoss players. And maybe for some of the viewers out there that used to play Brood War a lot back in the day and kind of expect the Terran player to almost always wall off, and we're not really seeing too many wall-offs here. So you did mention that Terran players have kind of figured out different ways to do that instead of a standard wall, but is there any reason you think why Nyoken isn't doing a standard wall-off at his ramp?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what this... I mean, the wall-off at this point, a lot of Terrans just try not to do it just because later on in the game it actually ends up kind of really burning you because you have to really move your forces back and forth in order to deal with recalls, and oh my
gosh, the banner pylon
with the zealot going on into the main mineral line as well.
TT1 is loving these early aggressive plays, and they've been working out relatively well, so why not? It's not a proxy gateway like he did in the previous game on Matchpoint, but he's still sending in some zealots. He's still being annoying. That pylon that was kind of built blocked some SCVs from mining for a period of time and forced them to, instead of mine, kind of take out that pylon. And this is just, it's got to be annoying the deal with. And there's another zealot that's heading towards the national Nyoken and should be able to delay this expansion as well, picking off the SCV before the command center finishes.
Yeah, it's just those little annoying things that, even though the Protoss is investing quite a bit of money into these zealots and kind of delaying his own tech, it's just so annoying that you have to kind of throw more SCVs down there in order to start rebuilding the command center and getting all of your all of the situation kind of under control, and it also just kind of slightly throws off all of your builds that you're so used to. Ooh, really nice SCV block on the ramp there.
Brood War is a hard game. These players are both showing you why it can be a very difficult game. All of this pressure and stuff, it takes a lot of mental fortitude and focus, mechanics, build order strategy, a lot of straight up knowledge, just to deal with some of these very basic attacks. And it's kind of one of the reasons why I feel Brood War is still played after all these years. It's just a very difficult game that can take a lifetime to master.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to master it over the course of a couple of months, and let me tell you, I have not gotten very far at all. I've like I've started to like be able to hold my own, but in the beginning months, man, I remember I was trying to do this like streaming thing where I did 30 days of StarCraft Brood War, and I remember like day 10 or something, or day 5 or day 10, it was something like really deep in there. I was like, yes, I got my first win.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that you're improving. You're starting to pull off a few wins as opposed to just loot losses. Looks like TT1 wants to grab a quick third expansion in addition to his natural. So this is pretty cool. I like this though. The Terran player, he's already picked up his natural, and TT1 did kind of delay his expansions as well. So just going ahead and grabbing a very quick third expansion as well could be a good way of really equalizing out the economy.
Yeah, this is a really aggressive macro style coming out here from TT1. If Terran sniffed this out, actually you can really punish it if you built a lot of factories and kind of were highly aggressive with that whole entire style. Ooh, I really like this as well. Python's got a very large, like, kind of choke point at the front of the map, front of the natural, so he's just using that in order to kind of swing a zealot around the edge too.
Just maximizing the amount of harassment TT1 can do, really trying to force Nyoken the splits resources, prevent him from mining for a little bit. These are all the kinds of things that it adds up over time, and I know that in some of the other matches Nyoken's macro slipped a little bit due to little harassments like this, and even if his macro's not slipping, like, I do know that his economy, he's not getting out as much of it as you normally get.
Yeah, maybe that's something that like TT1 has noticed as well, because we can just see that TT1 has constantly been using these types of little strategies ever since like the first 2 games, right? Like we're seeing these little excessively using the harassment strategy for Protoss as opposed to kind of the more bully, constantly whittling down your army style from TT1. The last game we just casted, he did the same exact thing by going for that proxy gateway. Just these little things, that little bit of harassment is just going to get into the mindset of your opponent.
Indeed. So let's, looking at the supply counts, TT1's ahead by a little bit at this point. Not really a huge difference. Nyoken's been able to stabilize. He's got a few siege tanks out. The harassment is essentially stopped. He's going to go ahead and get some scans up soon. Now that he's finished his academy, he's got a +1 attack on the way from his armory. So Nyoken, he doesn't have a huge amount of production, but he should be doing pretty solid in terms of tech. I am a little bit concerned about him eventually getting another expansion, though, because I do think TT1 will eventually pull ahead in the macro game.
Yeah, TT1 definitely. If this like base is suffered to live here, TT1's going to be in a great spot. I really like how Nyoken is moving this cute little like scouting engineering bay over here. He might be able to scout it out for free, but I don't know if that's going to be possible. TT1 going back into that little bit of shuttle play again this time too.
I liked it. It was very effective in the first match, or in our previous match, because the vulture count was super low. And hey, man, I don't see many vultures on the map right now. He could potentially just go for another, annoying timing attack later on, in addition to the harassment with the shuttle, and just, put Nyoken in a world of pain.
So Nyoken is not looking to make this game go into the mid game at all. Nyoken is building 6 factories. This is a very heavy aggression coming in here from Terran. Even a little bit all in. You can already see he's cut SCVs. He's stopped making any of them. The 6 fact push is basically like the I'm going to end this game kind of Terran strategy. The idea is to do heavy, if not completely mortal damage to the Protoss player.
I'm just not sure if it's going to work, because the Protoss player, he already had 5 gateways up relatively early, around the time that third expansion was finishing up. He's adding on 2 additional gateways. The shuttle scouted the build of Nyoken. TT1 knows what's coming his way. He knows there's all these factories, and I imagine that he knows what he needs to do to survive against this type of push.
TT1 has not moved an observer over there. I think the shuttle got a good scout, but I don't know if it got a full scout of the 6 factories. In which case, TT1 definitely needs to get a lot more units out here. Now, he does have 6 gateways, which he's trying to match the Terran, if not a little bit exceed the amount of units that the Terran has. But if Nyoken starts pushing out before those 6 gateways really get spinning and churning, this is going to be really troublesome for TT1 to handle.
That's true. At least TT1, I think he has 8 gateways total when that additional gateway finishes.
Oh, I didn't see the 2 down there, you're right.
Yeah, he had 2 down there, so I think he should be okay with that. TT1 even getting aggressive, just trying to, prevent Nyoken from just getting a free A move across the map. So he's able to set up a good siege and tank position. The tanks will siege up, doing a good amount of damage. Zealots, looks like the leg upgrade is finished. They're looking for trying to take out those tanks. TT1 should be able to take out most of the tanks, but his main army couldn't be traded for. Uh-oh. Okay. So 1 tank is alive, but it's a lot of vultures, and TT1's got the production, so all he has to do is stall, and I think he should be able to hold on to his expansions.
Yeah, what's actually really interesting is Nyoken is only on 1 machine shop, so losing those siege tanks is actually really big here.
Oh my god, you're absolutely right.
A scary moment. If he loses any more of those siege tanks, he's going to be out of the game.
Sure, and unfortunately, the spider mines weren't really able to utilize too much in that last engagement as well. TT1 doing an excellent job of reading the situation and trying to take any little advantage he can get in order to reduce the effectiveness of this Terran army.
Oh, putting a lot of those spider mines really closely to that one siege tank. Those zealots get on top of that, but meanwhile, TT1 is having to deal with this giant minefield in front of that as well.
It's true, the tanks are starting to shell on this 3rd expansion, taking out the cannons. The Forge could go next, which is researching an upgrade, and that's never fun to get your upgrade blown up halfway through, making your army stronger. There's still going to be just a lot of vultures flying in, because like you mentioned earlier, there's only 1 machine shop turning out tanks. So it's just going to be a crap ton of mines, a few tanks here and there, and TT1 hold on.
Ooh, I really like that. Actually, Nyoken had to pull back his vultures in order to start killing the spider mines so that any type of shuttle drop didn't take out his own units. Now, it looks like Nyoken is... TT1 is opting to pick up 2 Dragoons into the shuttle as opposed to any type of Zealot bombs.
Maybe they take less damage from vultures, and that's why he wants to use them instead of Zealots.
Not exactly sure. It's generally not something you typically drop on top of your opponent too often. It's generally used for, Reavers. But here comes the engagement. This is going to be pivotal here.
Indeed it is. The Zealots are able to get on the front lines. There's not much mines doing much damage. Actually, TT1, he's been able to get a good surround, good engagement. Take out the siege tanks. The vultures are going to hold next. There's not a huge amount of mines that people need planted. They can just get picked off thanks to this observer nearby. And the Dragoons, they'll just be able to pick off this lone tank as well. And TT1, it looks like he's probably going to lose his 3rd expansion, or at least the mining has stopped for the time being. But if he can kind of hold on and stabilize, Nyoken's still only on 2 bases.
Yeah, this is a really... Oh my god, if he doesn't take out this Nexus, and he allows it to get back up to full, this is going to be awful. Getting that 3rd Nexus would have been the equalizer here, since they're both on 2 bases. But since the 3rd Nexus... Oh man, does he actually pull probes in order to actually get those over there? Curious situation. No, it looks like there's going to be a giant vulture hit squad coming over here.
Unfortunately for the vultures, the Dragoons are nearby. There's also an observer, so they won't really be able to accomplish too much. Hold on to that thought. It's down to 40 health, 20 health, 15. The Nexus falls to the vultures, and that makes the harassment absolutely worth it. TT1, I'm sure, is a little bit peeved losing that expansion. But looking at the supplies, it's 106 for the Protoss player compared to the 92 of the Terran. TT1 has been able to hold off the attack. He has been able to stabilize. I feel it's still anyone's game.
Yeah, as well as the fact that TT1's been able to actually start teching behind this as well. Looking at the upgrades, +1 for Terran, +1 for Protoss, they're pretty much paired in that regard. if Nyoken can actually start using a little bit of that bank that he's kind of started to build up here and build a really big army, now he's up to 3 machine shops. If he can start getting like a lot of siege tanks and really hit before that base is able to kind of start settling again, he could potentially start turning this game back into his favor again. But right now, I think Nyoken's a little bit on the back foot.
I agreed. I'd have to definitely agree with you on that statement. The additional, machine shops will make a difference, I feel, because in these engagements, the Dragoons have always kind of survived. They're the backbone, say, of the Tusk army. That combined with the Zealots, but if you don't have much tanks in your army, then the Dragoons are just going to reign free.
Yeah, the really important thing that I think that I've always just been kind of noticing that Nyoken doesn't do that much is putting a whole bunch of just mines across the entire map. Now, it looks like he's starting to do that as I literally say it. But one of the best things that I've found a lot of really good Terran players when I watch them do is just mine up the entire map. And now, granted, TT1's been really good at just kind of walking around the map and cleaning them out. It still gives you a good idea as a player, Terran player, in order to figuring out where the Protoss is so that you can kind of start exploiting their weaknesses. And that's really what Nyoken needs to start doing in order to start taking this game back into his favor. But TT1 is doing such a great job of just keeping this game completely under his lock and key.
I think this wouldn't be a bad time to start mining up the map. Nyoken could be poised to just straight up go for a big push. He is grabbing that 3rd expansion the command center has just finished. Both mains for both players are starting to mine out. There's not a lot of resources left there. And compared to some of our other matches, we're not seeing additional expansions as fast due to the heavy aggression from both players in the early stages. We could have a very big engagement as a lot of the tanks are sieging up. Where are the mines, though? There's just not a lot of mines. The Vultures will be able to do a good amount of tank with the Zealots. That tank is going to take line quite yet. And the Zealots, they're able to get under that Arbiter. All of a sudden, this is going to be a very big issue for Nyoken as his tanks are essentially laid bare. He needs to use some scans to the Zealots, and the Dragoons will be able to finish off this Terran army.
Oh, just barely. I think Nyoken is going to be able to take this fight and actually put TT1 on the supply disadvantage right now. If he can actually make his way across the map, and if he hasn't spent too many scans, he's going to be in a really good position. But no science vessels with this, as well as being forced to now slow hop across the map, can be really rough.
Indeed. TT1, it looks like he has a little bit more resources under his belt at the moment. Bit behind on supply, like mentioned, and no 4th base in sight for TT1. There's a probe in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, just chilling next to a vulture with 7 health. So I don't anticipate an expansion will be built there. Nyoken has to, I feel, top right.
He's going to expand to the top right. He's got a shuttle over there.
Okay, I see. I mean, that's kind of one of the few places where TT1 can actually do something. There's also an Arbiter recalling into the Terran player's main base. This is going to be almost guaranteed, I want to say, a supply block.
Yeah, it's actually not that many units, though. I don't really expect a lot more than this from an Arbiter. But it's a lot of Zealots, which Zealots are like the best unit to really kind of throw in a recall. They're able to tear down structures really quickly. They're like crack in it. As well as you can fit a lot more of them than you can in Dragoon.
The Zealot army will eventually be finished off, although they're actually doing a pretty solid amount of damage. They should be able to pick off this one more siege tank. But at the end of the day, they killed off a few supply depots. Nyoken's not even supply blocked because he just had so many supply depots. So all of this is annoying. If he can kill off this Arbiter, it's not terrible for him.
Yes, he does get it. That's actually a pretty good net there for that Goliath. In fact, it was actually 1 shot away from killing that Goliath as well, which is kind of funny.
I mean, TT1, he's about to get that 4th expansion. This is kind of something I wanted to see from him a little bit earlier. A 2nd recall into the main base once again. This time he could end up supply blocking Nyoken. There's a lot of Terran army units near this base though, so there's only so much damage TT1 can do with this recall.
Yeah, and you see he's just kind of locking it down in the back side of the base, really just trying to force the Terran to have to come and engage in, as opposed to really just trying to do as much damage as possible, which is really kind of cute. The SAVs actually, I don't know if that was intentional or not, blocking those Zealots from being able to get right on top of those units. The really weird thing here is that I guess what I should really say is I love the fact that TT1 has noticed that Nyoken doesn't build science vessels like ever. And so TT1 is just taking excellent advantage of the fact by just constantly using these arbiters in such an annoying way that a lot of Terrans will just like kind of pump out a lot of science vessels to deal with this. As well as that, but like TT1's just expanding across the map, getting all of his upgrades, playing just such a solid macro game.
Now, I think one of the reasons we haven't been seeing as much science vessels, especially in this game, is because Nyoken was going for that 6-factory push early on in the match, and when that kind of ended in somewhat of a stalemate, he's a little bit delayed on his tech. He still has to build a lot of units. He's concerned with eventually taking that 3rd expansion, and there's only so many ways you can spend your resources, and you eventually have to cut something. And I'm imagining that the tech was somewhat cut in this situation.
Yeah, very much so. But by the time that you're at this stage, you're thinking about even grabbing like a 4th base, it should be the time that you actually start getting a couple of science vessels here, just to deal with those recalls alone. Now this is a really dangerous spot here. All of TT1's production is in the main base. If he gets locked down and he can't get his gateway units down this ramp, this allows TT1 this allows Nyoken free range to move across the entire map. At the same time, Nyoken cannot press up this ramp as hard as one might think.
That's true, and there's also some high tempo nearby. We're not sure if Storm is completed, but there's a chance that Storm is, if not done now, could be done very soon. The Natural's taken out, so Nyoken has that under his belt, but he still has to deal with a good amount of Dragons in his main base, and they could eventually start picking off on the armory or even potentially the factories.
Yeah, luckily he was able to take out the Arbiter with his Colette, and he's still scanning the map, thinking that there's an Arbiter there. If he can finally break out of these Dragoons, I think he might actually have just won the game.
Also, I want to point out that TT1's 3rd base has been picked off as well. There's not even any minerals there. They've all been mined out. So TT1's essentially operating on a base in the top right-hand corner of the map, that island base. But beyond that, I mean, Nyoken's in an excellent spot economy-wise.
Yeah, still got that base down there in the 9 o'clock position. Still able to hold off all these Dragoons over here in his own main base, so his production is not actually that impacted. There's not that many forces. It looks like finally now TT1 is going to start running some forces down there to the 9 o'clock base. Sorry, not 6 o'clock base, not 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock base. If he can actually take this out, it's going to do a little bit better damage against Nyoken. Oh my god, he's going for another recall again.
What else can he do at this point?
Yeah.
Okay, so the high tempo has been merged into Archons, which is leading me to believe that he did not research Storm, and he just starved minerals and wants to make something happen. This is a good play by TT1. He's sending a few units in here, a little bit of harassment, just trying to reduce what economy Nyoken has. Nyoken also, he got supply blocked just for like a second, but he's already gone ahead and built multiple supply depots. Nice, another recall into Nyoken's main base, this time right on the factories. TT1 can kill these factories. I mean, it's rough, but there may still be a sliver of the room to kind of come back into this game.
Oh, it's not even a sliver. It's a pretty good chance that he can throw himself back into this game. Unfortunately, he didn't get the CC that was down there at the 6 o'clock base, but if he can just really just completely knock out most of the Terran's main base here, he is in a really good chance to actually start kind of getting into a good spot. If he can actually get an expansion, that's the question here. He's down to that top right-hand expansion, and that one alone. But by taking out that 6 o'clock base, we keep calling it 9 o'clock base, the 6 o'clock base, he's also denied Nyoken his own main base to mine from.
Unfortunately for TT1, he lost his Arbiter recalling into Nyoken's main base, and at the end of the day, all the factories are still alive pretty much. I think the machine shop was taken out, but it's the Terran army looks to be at a seizable advantage at this point.
Yeah, no arbiters on the way, no gas. In fact, he's not actually mining gas at the top right-hand corner. Oh no! This is really bad here for TT1.
That is. He's mineral starved, gas starved. He has excellent production. Didn't lose any of his production facilities, but at the same time, Nyoken, he took a little bit of damage there, but not enough for it to make a true difference. Nyoken's army count is still pretty darn high. It's 101 supply compared to the 74 Terran versus Protoss. The siege tanks, though, could get caught off guard. They're on siege. They'll have to back off the time. BA, Archon as well. On the front lines gets easily taken out. I think the Terran army is stripped for the remaining forces of GT1, and there's your GG. We've got tied series.
Not tied yet.
Wait, no,
3-2.
Once again, my math fails.
Much better than what I was actually predicting in the beginning of that match when that 6 factory was kind of held off. This is really cool.